All right, so Eckhart, you had a question. We call him Eckhart because at the retreat he sounds like Eckhart, he talks like Eckhart, and he's very calm, like Eckhart.
You were talking about connection.
Yes.
About it, about its importance. So, can you elaborate on the difference between connection and attachment?
Okay, great question. So, to the difference between connection and attachment. Okay, a connection is a connection to something that is already part of you, right? You feel it's already part of you. An attachment is a connection. Well, can I say connection? Can I use the word? Yeah. Well, it's very simple. One is connection to what we typically talk about when we say connection. Is you're connecting or feeling something that is already part of you, right? The other one is a connection or a feeling towards something that you perceive is not part of you, is separate to you. That's what creates attachment. Attachment is only experienced towards something that you perceive to be separate from you. Okay, so where does perceive come from? The bubble. You're looking in your bubble, you're like, there's a different bubble. But get rid of the bubble, there's no separation, it's just one ocean. So whenever you have an attachment towards something, it's because you perceive to be separate. That's where agendas come from. Agendas are igniters because you've perceived to be separate from all things and you perceive to be separate from who you are. So in other words, you're experiencing yourself through form rather than through formless. How do you experience yourself through formless? It's here. You sense it, like we said before. You sense it through your sixth sense. I'm still here, but I can experience myself through oneness, but the game changes. It's like I'm going to be talking about this in a moment. It's like who's doing the planning. There's a difference between me doing the planning as the identity, the separate part of me, the bubble, versus me as the infinite, I as the infinite, doing the planning. Okay? And when it's I as the infinite doing the planning, it's the plan unfolding. The way I describe it is the plan is unfolding through me. Right? When it's me over here planning, it's always planning towards accomplishing the outcome or the results, and the outcome or the results are ignited or fueled by the agenda. You want that outcome because the moment you get that outcome, you have security. You want that outcome because the moment you get that outcome, you get recognition, appreciation, approval. It's just one of your agendas. And that's where attachment is born from. Attachment is just when you perceive you're always attached to something because your agendas are hidden in one of those attachments. So you're like, that's what creates the attachment. And why does your agendas in one of those things? Because you've perceived to be separate. You only have an agenda when you're experiencing the game of separation. Does that make sense? So, good question. Let's go. So let's look for more reference points. When else do you experience timelessness? Or when else have you had moments of timelessness? So we just said deja vu was an example. Oh yeah, deja vu. Oh yeah, I felt like I've been here before. But in your everyday living, where else, microphone, where else have you experienced where you felt, this is like, it feels like time disappears. Okay, I mean, that's what when we say it's timeless, it's like time disappeared, or it's like time became irrelevant. In other words, the boundaries of time got lifted. In other words, you have brought space into time. What happens when you bring space into time? So many months we talked about you got to bring space into things. What happens when you bring space into? What happens to time in space? It's like how many light years is the next galaxy, or it's like light years. Like the time is like this. It just becomes almost irrelevant. Like in space, time is just such a. It's a drop of the ocean. Can you see what I'm saying? So when you bring space into time, it slows down. It slows down. Now the time is still there, but it slows down. Who's ever been maybe in a near, an accident of some sort? Maybe you're falling down the steps, or you're driving your car and suddenly you're in an accident, and it seems like everything just slowed down. Who's ever experienced that before? What happened there? It's like you're bending time. Because what happens is you are falling into the now. Like in that moment, you went back to your truer self, and you're falling to now. As you're falling to now, it's not like, let's say a 4-second incident would go 1,000, 2,000, 3,000, 4,000. That's 4 seconds. But the 4-second went like this. 1, 2, 3, 4, back into time. Can you see what I'm saying? You just slowed it down. It didn't disappear. It's still part of the story. But time, in the movie The Matrix, they say some rules are there to be broken, some rules are there to be bent. Well, time can be bent. It can be bent. And I want you to find references of where you have bent time without even knowing it. So, microphone, who had the microphone?
When I go really quiet, I recognise that time doesn't exist actually, and one of those other times was sort of like a near-death experience. I was swimming and had a rip, and I thought, well, this is very calm, very relaxing. Do I stay here or do I go? Yeah. It's lovely. Yeah. Very, very peaceful.
Interesting point. Who's ever had a near-death experience that they can remember? The time slow. It's like here you are about to die in physical form, and you're experiencing this peacefulness, and there's like time just slows right down, and then it's like you even became aware of your thoughts or your awareness of, should I go or should I stay? Am I going to stay or am I going to go? Yeah, very good example. So near-death experiences, sometimes people experience that. I remember once I decided to go test drive a motorcycle, and I was looking to buy a small motorcycle, nothing big. I had a motorcycle lined up in the Central Coast, and I was going to go buy it, but I had to drive all the way Central Coast, and I thought, well, maybe I'll go test drive one around in Sydney to see what it's like, so I don't have to go all the way over there just to test drive it. So I rang up a motorcycle shop, and I said, do you have a 600cc bike? They said, yeah. And I said, can I come test drive it? They said, yeah, come and test drive it. So I went to test drive this 600cc bike, and then the guy goes, well, you might as well drive the 1000. If 600, I mean, this one's in bad condition. I was like, yeah, but I just wanted to test drive the 600. He's like, no, look at this bike, it's a 1000. And I wasn't interested in 1000. Those things are just so powerful. And anyway, he convinced me to drive the 1000. I was like, well, I'll drive the 1000, then I'll get on the 600. It'll be good experience. So, and before that I was driving 250s. I just got my full license. So silly me gets on the bike and just, opens the throttle like you open the throttle on a 250, and the thing's just like, it just flies. And I was like, oh my God, this thing flies. And I took it for a test drive, and when you go around for a test drive, you end up on the freeway. So I thought, on the freeway, let me open the throttle a little bit, see how it goes. That's what you're meant to do, right? Not. But anyway, on the bike. So I opened the throttle a little bit. I won't say how fast I was going, but I opened the throttle, and this thing it was just like, and I was like, this is way too much for me. And anyway, when you're going that fast, the exits come very quickly, and I wasn't used to the exit coming that quickly.
Attention all occupants, attention all occupants. We are currently undergoing maintenance of the fire and evacuation system.
I'll keep talking, and then if I need to stop, we'll stop again. So these freeways, I'm going down this freeway, the exit's coming up really closer. So to cut the long story short, I take the freeway, and again, I realized that, I'm going too fast to actually stop. So I start gearing down, gearing down, dropping down gears. There we go. Was that it? That was a quiet alarm, isn't it? Man, no wonder they need testing. So I'm gearing down this freeway, and what happens as I'm taking this exit, the bike locks up. Okay, not the brakes, the actual bike, you know, you've ridden bikes. I geared down too fast, and it locked up, and it just started to rain. It was sprinkling, and they said, make sure you come back before it rains, because insurance doesn't cover test rides if it starts raining. But who cares about the insurance? And my life is on, you know, like, so this back tire locked up, right? Now, I knew I'm not going to stop in time. I knew I was not going to stop. But the risk when the bike locks up is not, you know, are you going to stop in time? The question is it going to flick you off? Because if the back hits any slippery part, the back spins like that, and it flips you off, like, and you go flipping off. But it was the most calmest moment I've ever experienced. You know, I was just like, I remember everything just slowed down, and this back wheel was just, I'm just skidding all the way along.
Testing.
There's the real one. Ali's going to have great editing work to do here. What did they say, Dicko?
Over the next 5 to 10 years, we're testing every floor.
Right. So, but in that moment when I'm just sliding along, I just remember this calmness come over me. There was not one part of me that went into the future. Therefore, I didn't experience any fear whatsoever. And I was just complete calm, and I just felt a feeling that just said, keep it straight. And I was just calm, you know. Now, I'm not encouraging that, but I just remembered that as a reference point for me. And I'm sliding along, and I knew I'm not going to stop in time. And I had a red light, and I'm going to cross the red light, and there could be a car here. Still just calm, right? And the feeling just said, keep it straight, because normally you want to start turning because you want to, you know, avoid going past the red light. I just kept it straight like that, and there was no cars there, and I just went over the red light and stopped. And I just went, whoa, I'm buying this bike. And I actually ended up going and buying the bike right then and there. And I don't know why, but I did buy the bike. I don't have that bike anymore because I like to cruise now, and I got rid of it and bought a Harley instead. But it was just a reference point that I want to share with you. It's just like, here is a moment that you're going to experience total fear, right? But there wasn't any fear, and it was just total calmness, and the instinct instruction was just keep it straight. Now, I wasn't an experienced rider. I didn't even know you meant to. I don't even know how I knew you meant to keep it straight. But can you see what I'm saying? There is a part of me that knows and just says, keep the back tire straight. Now afterwards, after becoming more experienced rider, I realized, well, if that back tire flicked, it just would have flung me over, right? So yeah, anyway, long story short, I did end up buying that bike. And but that's another reference point. There's a moment where you've experienced yourself in danger of some sort, right? And you experience complete timelessness. But what's another more positive experience? Jamie, wait for the microphone.
Making love.
Making love, okay. Or doing what you love to do, right? But I'll talk, hey? But when you're doing what you love to do, when you're doing what's true for you, when I'm speaking, when I'm flying planes, you know, what happens to time? It disappears, you know? Suddenly, you know, if I was hungry before, I'm not even hungry, because a lot of times hunger is just driven by time. That's one of the things I noticed when I went on this road of, you know, losing weight and becoming trim again. I realized that I would get hungry because I'd look at the time and say it's 1 o'clock. Well, I should be hungry. And I wasn't hungry, but then like 30 seconds later, I was like, ooh, I'm hungry.
The test is now complete. Thank you for your patience.
And I would realize, I'm actually hungry. But it was based on time, you know? So, but doing what you love to do, there's the little, again, a little reference point of time becomes irrelevant. So when you are engrossed and when you are deeply connected to doing what you truly love to do, there's no time there. Time becomes irrelevant. You know, now, yes, in the story there's time. So what I'm saying is that when you finish speaking, or when you finish doing what feels so true for you to do, when you finish, when you reduce the connection to what you're doing, and like you get off stage or whatever, then you're like, oh yeah, I was speaking for that long. Oh, okay. You go back into time. You go back into the story, and they went, oh, you spoke 5 minutes over time. Oh, it didn't even feel like that. Time disappears. Yes, so those who speak might experience that, but any time when you're doing what's true for you, right? What's another example I could give to you that you're experiencing time becoming irrelevant? What about when you're having a dream? How relevant is time in your dream? It's timeless, right? It doesn't exist. If you remember that movie Inception. Who remembers the movie Inception? And they get put into their dreams and they experience the dream. One of the things that they describe, which you'll relate to, is that when you are experiencing the dream, you never remember how the dream began. Have you noticed? When you're having a dream of any sort, you don't remember how that dream began. All you notice is, I'm walking down the streets in your dream, but in the dream, you have this awareness or this thought that I've been coming from that way. But if you actually stop and go, where's that way? There's nothing there. Do you understand? Like in your present moment right now, in the moment now, right? There is no past. But in the present moment, rise up a little bit and come into the story, which has a present moment. Well, the present moment has a past. I was born in 1978. I did this. I experienced this at 4 years old. I experienced it. There's all these stories and all these different memories that you've stored in time. Can you grasp what I'm saying? And and none of it's real. It's just a story. It's a memory. Because what's real is what you're experiencing right now. Just like when you're having a dream, there's this story that has built from behind you and a story of where you're going. But the moment you had the dream, you just became or formed the dream, but the dream has to have a past or future. And you're like, yeah, I've been walking down the street for a little while. It's like, well, have you? Look what's behind you. It's timeless. You're only experiencing one moment. And that one moment is now. It's the only thing that's real. Even the present moment that has a past or future is the door to the now, is the space where you can experience both the past and future in the now. It's a pinpoint. It's the middle of the seesaw. You go into the past, you can experience big positives and negatives. Big positives and negatives. You go into the future, you can experience big positives and negatives. You come into the present moment of the story, what happens to the ups and downs? It gets less and less. You go into the now, the past and future and the present moment, it's like they're different colors, blue, green, and yellow, and they merge into one and become one color. What happened to the blue? What happened to the green? What happened to the yellow? When they're put together, like an artist, when they're putting colors together, it becomes one color. It's not three colors anymore. It's not the past, the future, and the present moment. The colors become one. You can't see where one color starts and one color ends anymore. It's just one color. There is no more blue, green, or yellow. It's just one color. What happens when you put blue, green, and yellow together? Any artists here? Let's say you get, I don't know, maroon. It's just maroon. There's no more three colors. Just like in a rainbow, there's 7 different colors. You can't see where one color starts and one color ends. The time of the past and the future merge into one. There's only one rainbow. But there's this appearance of different colors. One color. All the colors come together and become one. Timeless. One moment, one energy. So, let's keep unraveling and go a little bit deeper. Do you have a question? Microphone, please.
Just something you said about the dream. It kind of like there's an observer quality. That when you're in that place, it's more like you're observing than, doing, or I don't know what that is. And I just wondered if it's almost like it's not you, the small self disappears.
It's like when you're having a dream. When you're having a dream, the dream is taking place in your consciousness, right? Everything in the dream is you, and the little character, which you perceive to be you as the identity, is you. It's all merged into one, okay? And you're experiencing yourself being that character, right? You could be observing the character, or you could be looking through the character, right? But either way, you're experiencing yourself being the character in the dream. You experience the character having different people, or there's, let's say, the mother and the father and your partner or your kids are in the dream, but your partner and your kids are all the same person. It's all you, because it's taking place in your dream. So that's a good example of one energy. Just like when you're having a dream, it's all one dream. There's different characters in the dream, but it's all the same person. And even the person that you know as you to be you as the character, that's not even you. Who you really are is the dream. Who you really are is consciousness. Can you see? Yeah, good example. So that's a good example of one energy. One energy, one moment. Okay, let's check out some more of these questions.
Just a reflection on that same sort of thought process. I was looking after someone who had some memory loss or confusion recently, and they couldn't remember where they lived or where they were actually even staying there, and where were they, you sort of see someone's orientation, and you sort of think, is that a transgression into their present is literally in the now, isn't it? Or is it challenged?
It's an interesting point. I mean, I can't answer that question. It's a medical thing, but it's a good thing to reflect on. And I spoke about this in the Melbourne group, and I said, imagine all you had right now was this moment. Imagine that there was some disease you had, right? This is the example I gave. And this disease eats away part of your brain that refers to the past or future for longer than 10 seconds. So you can't refer to the future and past for longer than 10 seconds. So you can go to the future, you can go to the past, but after 10 seconds, you just find yourself slipping out of the past and future and going back straight into the present moment. So all you could actually live and experience your life in was this present moment, the moment now. What would your life look like? What would your life feel like if all you could experience was now? You could have a reference point of the past or future, but after 10 seconds, like that part of your brain doesn't work, and you just slip like a slippery slope straight back into the now. You can't stay there. Imagine all you had is now. Your mind, your brain doesn't let you go there. What would your life look like? What would your life look like if all you could experience was now and only have moments of the past and future?
Wouldn't your life be exactly the same, but your perception of your life would be different?
And how would it be different?
Everything would feel more. Like you would feel different about every experience, but what happened in your life surely would have been exactly the same.
You know what it would be? Let me put it straight for you. I'm not saying it's wrong, it's on the right thing. I'm just going to give it to you straight. You experience love and freedom in all moments. Let me just give it to you straight. Because love is now. Freedom is in love. And guess what you're looking for in the past and future? Who wants to have a guess? Freedom and love. We are continuously driven towards the past and future because we are looking for love and freedom, because we're not here. I'll come to you in a moment. We go to the past, we go to the future, we're looking for love. Love is now. So you would be experiencing the freedom that you experience in love. You experience it right now. Every single moment you experience, there will be no such thing as fear. You could not experience fear. You know, I always put this out there, I say fear does not exist in the present moment, or if you go one step deeper, in the now. There is no such thing as fear. Even I'm about to have a bicycle accident, but there's no fear. How is there no fear in that moment? And then someone always asks me a stupid question, which is not so stupid. What happens if someone's got a gun to my head right now? Well, right now I would experience fear. I say, well, you're not. You're experiencing fear if they pull the trigger, which could be the future. So your mind is going to the future going, oh my God, and you're experiencing fear going, they better not pull the trigger. If you're right here in the present moment, there will be no fear. In fact, if you're right here in the present moment, you become one with the other person who's got the gun or a lion who's chasing you. What about if, these are the examples, people, what about if I was in the wild and, you know, a lion started chasing me? Most animals are attacking you because they sense your fear. Do you know that? That's why you see people these days, you know, people posted on YouTube and Facebook, people living with lions or with bears. They hug bears and they're friends with them because there's no fear. Do you know the animal doesn't want to attack you? I mean, unless it's doing it for you know, because it's hungry, right? But most times they sense that this is not what I want to eat. The animal does not want to attack you. The reason why an animal attacks is because you go into fear, so the animal's instinct feels fear. And when it feels fear, it goes into survival mode. So it thinks, when it feels your fear, it thinks you're going to attack it. Because that's what an animal senses. It just senses your fear and then it goes, it's going to attack me. So then it attacks you first. It's doing it out of, what do they call it? What do they call it when someone goes, self-defense. Because your energy goes into fear, and that's what happens. It's like, so then the shark goes, it's going to attack me. That thing there is about to attack me. So there is no fear in the now. It does not exist. The fear that you're experiencing is what you're projecting from the now, because all there is the now. You get what I'm saying? We said all there is one energy. If there's only one moment, you got to start pondering on this over lunch. If there's only one moment, that means that all there is now. So the fact that you're not in the now is an illusion itself. The fact that you're having an experience of being in the past or future is actually a lie. You're actually in the now. You're making it up. The only thing that you can experience is the now. There's no fear in the now. And time is an illusion itself, because everything that ever happened, everything that ever will happen, everything that is happening in the same moment, which debunks time. But of course we understand why we have time, why we're experiencing time, so we're not trying to get rid of it. But when you're experiencing yourself in the moment now, you sense that. The time becomes irrelevant. And you can bend time, just like you can bend ideas. Microphone, please.
My thought that came to my head was there'd be no special relationships, because when we feel that connectedness and love, we wouldn't remember our husband or wife or child. They wouldn't be special, because that's all based
Who knows someone who's died before? Sorry to interrupt. Who knows someone who's died before? Who can still feel them? You see, the specialty is what you feel in this moment, right? It's not a memory. The memory is the attachment to the specialty. The special moment that you have with your family, right, or with a loved one, if it's coming in memory form, okay, it's your attachment to that moment. So the true specialness that you feel with someone is you feeling, whether they're even here or not in form, you still feeling them. And I'd say that, you know, when I speak around on stages, I say, you know, just to show people that it doesn't disappear. I go, who's ever knows someone who's died? They put their hand up and I say, well, who still feels them?
But wouldn't the connection be the same for everyone? You wouldn't feel that stronger pull towards one person. You're going to feel that love from everyone. So when your wife appears in front of you, you're just going to feel the same as if a stranger stands in front of you.
That is true. When you can grasp infinite love, that's exactly what happens. Because the love that you're describing there is, you know, we've spoke about this in the month of unconditional infinite love. And I said that true unconditional infinite love is when you're not, you can't unconditionally, universally love another form. You're loving yourself in that form. Otherwise, you're just loving the story, and you're loving the memory, and which is an attachment. So, if you're in this now, that memory won't be there, right? But the true essence that created that memory will be here, because it already existed. The memory, you're trying to hold on to what exists. You're trying to hold it in physical form. We are continuously looking to hold on. You know, that's why when you have a moment of love, you try to hold on to it. When you feel something that feels true for you, you try to hold on to it. What I'm speaking about, and it resonates with you, you're trying to hold on to it. It's already there, it already exists. And it exists in all times, or in all moments, in all places. So the truth is, all we have is now. And let's ponder on that for a sec. If everything that ever happened, if everything that will happen, if everything that is happening in one moment, and that one moment is now, which we refer to as the now, well, when is now the time then? You know, people go, well, I don't know if it's the right timing. Or they go, oh, now's the time. Now is the time. We need to have a conversation about that then. When is now the time? Now, I don't want you to have an answer straight away, because I want you to really ponder on that. And it's something that I want you to ponder over lunch, over the break, and then we can have a conversation about it. Because if everything's happening in the same moment, if all there is one moment, then when is now the time? Who's ever said, oh, now's the time? Or now's not the right time? Who's ever said that? Put your hand up, let me hear it, let me see it. There you go. When is now the time? If now is the only thing you have. Contemplate on that. We'll come back to that after the break. And let's talk a little bit about some of the everyday stuff we experience in time and space. I talk a lot actually, about non-planning, yes? And I say to people, well, if the flow or the effortless the effortless power that you experience is when you are in the now, well, how can you plan the now? You can't plan the now. However, there is a plan unfolding from the now. And I want to talk about the difference with that. Because I always say to people, I don't plan, and they ask a few questions here or there, and I go, well, there's a difference between planning and a plan unfolding. Which part of us is looking to plan? The mind, the ego, whatever you want to call it, the drop. Okay? And what's its plan? What's its ultimate plan? Why is it planning? Why is the part of you that is experiencing itself as a drop, as a separate individual, what is it looking to get from its plan? Control, ultimately, to ensure that you get recognition, appreciation, acceptance, approval, or security, which are all forms of love. They are forms of love. Forms of love comes from the love that you get from form. Forms of love, which is not the real love, it is a version of love, it is the shadow of love. Forms of love come from the love that you get from form. Yes? You can remember that? Forms of love come from form. So the part of you that's perceiving to be separate is looking to get recognition, appreciation, acceptance, approval, security. It's looking to have control, to get love. That part of you plans. That part of you, the plan that this part kicks in is, I want to get this. The plan that unfolds from within you is, I want to bring this. Why does it come from I want to bring? Because it already feels recognition, approval, acceptance, recognition, approval, acceptance, whatever. It already feels love because it's coming from the infinite love. So therefore, it's not about making a plan to get. It's about letting a plan to unfold, to bring, or to give, or to express from that which already is, not that which I can get. Do you understand the difference? It's different. Here, you're planning to get, planning to attain, to get there, to have that, because if I can have that, then I will have recognition. Here, you don't want, your love is in expressing the love. Your love is not receiving something back. And that is a plan that unfolds. Okay, so in my everyday life, in my business, in my relationship, in everything that I'm doing in my life, I don't make a plan. But don't get me wrong, there is a plan that is unfolding moment by moment. I am noticing it. The moment I decide to act on what feels true, that is the plan unfolding. The very beginning of this journey, you start by making lots of plans because the plans make you feel safe. But as you drop deeper and start to come from here, you start to feel safe already. And you notice what feels true for you. Over here, everything that you perceive to feel true for you is a false target. In other words, it's driven by an agenda. It's not what you really want. It's what you think you need. In other words, the agendas are the need of love. You need that so you can have love. You need this so you can be loved. You need to do this so someone will love you. Can you see? It's the need of love. And all the plans coming from here is from the need of love. Over here, you feel love. And when you feel something that feels true for you, right, and you decide to act on it, you notice a plan unfolding. The second phase of this, and I'll talk more about this next month, is, all right, you start to follow your heart. It feels true, for example, to start speaking. You say, yes, I'm going to start speaking, right? But after you make a decision, you go back over here and start to plan how it's going to happen. So the drop is gone back to planning. In other words, takes control of what is coming from infinity. And someone mentioned this before, so I can't remember who it was, but the point is to continue to stay in the moment. It was Boyd. Continue to stay in the moment, to only to do what you feel moved to do in the moment. I'm not going back into the planning. It's not like, wow, I found what I love to do. Then it's like, okay, how are we going to do this? No, it's like, I love doing this. Okay, what are we going to do next? It's like, I recently started working with Boyd. You know, I'm enjoying working with Boyd. He's enjoying working with me. Okay, what are we going to do this month? We just focus on this month. This is what we feel to do. Great, let's do it. Do you feel moved to do it? Yeah. Do I feel moved to do it? Yeah. Next month, okay, this is where it's going to go. We just month by month, moment by moment. And the desire, okay, and this is why I always say, the love or the plan, the question is, who loves and who's planning? Because over here, the one that loves is loving in order to need to be loved. In other words, the love is driven by need, which is not love. You love to do this because when you're doing this, you're experiencing love. So it's the need to be loved. So all the plan is about controlling and to make sure that you're loved. It's all about the outcome. It's all about the future. You do not fall back into the present moment. It's all about the plan. But over here, it's not about the future. Yes, the future and outcome can give you a connection. It can give you a connection. It's important for me to speak about what I'm speaking to you about. It's the future before I even know. Like, I know I'm going to speak about time, space, and the now. However, when it's now, when I start to speak, it's no longer about what I'm going to speak to you about. It's about the now. And sometimes what I speak about was actually different to what I thought I was going to speak about. A lot of times it's not different because I actually don't know what I'm going to speak about. I just have this shell. And then I fill the shell up. So I wanted to give that because planning, you know, people get a little bit, they're just like, I'm not planning. Yeah, okay, but what do you feel in this moment? Because sometimes the I'm not planning is like, I'm not doing anything. You see, it's such a fine line between becoming woo-woo. I don't plan. Okay, great. What do you feel to do now? Forget about that. What do you feel to do now? What do you feel in this moment? If you feel nothing, then do nothing. I agree. But the point is, most people feel to do nothing because they're not actually in the moment. And they're like, I don't know, I don't feel anything. Because they're not in the moment. Which brings me back to that same question. When is now the time? When is now the time? You see, if you felt something that was true for you, you felt it in the now. And when you feel something that's true for you, you feel it for the now. If it was for the future, the feeling will come to you later. The feeling came to you now. Yeah, I know, Amir, this is what I feel to do now, but now's not the time. But why the hell do you feel that way? I don't know. I'm premature in everything. It's premature. Go away. What they're really saying is, the money, or I don't have the time right now, or I don't. It's story related. I'm going back to what I deal with every day. It's story related. When I felt to go flying, I don't go, well, hang on a sec. Right now, I'm about to do something big in my business. I reckon in the next 3 months, I think I'm going to be consumed in my business. It's not the right time to fly. Well, why did I feel it? It is the right time. So then I say, yes, I'm going to start flying. Then I wait until the feeling moves next. The other day, I was having dinner with a few friends, and he's got a big boat, nice boat, my friend. And I said to him, and back in the days, I used to have a timeshare with boats. And I said, do you know of any companies that do timeshares? Because when he was talking about the boat, I was like, I want to get a boat for this summer. Perfect timing. Perfect timing. I felt to get a boat. And I asked him, do you know any company? Because the company that I used to do timeshares, they went bust. He goes, no, I don't know. And that's all. I just decided I would love to have a boat. The next day, I'm going to Sydney Airport, and there was a big billboard, own your own boat. I told Sally, get that website, because I was driving the car. So she got the website. I didn't ask for it again. I'm in the hotel later that day, or maybe the next day. She goes, hey, do you want that website you want me to write down? Can you see? It just keeps coming to me. But I had to if I went, geez, I'd love to have a boat now for this summer. I mean, perfect timing in the story even. But then I'm like, yeah, but I'm doing a lot of flying right now, and maybe that's extra cost, and But why did I feel that would be fun for the summer? I didn't feel it last summer. I decide to follow the feeling, then the little pieces find me. This billboard's there. Sally comes up to me and goes, right, here's the website. I look at the website. Great, I contact them. They send me a price list. This is what's happening. Like, yes, okay, great. Let's proceed with this. But to this point, I'm still not thinking, is this a good idea? This could be a bad idea. Will I have enough time? How much more expenses is this for me? That doesn't come in yet. And it will only come in if it's relevant. That part doesn't come in, because if that part comes in, then I go back into, which part of me comes from that part? The drop. So then, the drop's going in, and when things don't manifest, it's when the drop's trying to manifest. Well, hang on, the feeling didn't come from the drop. Why am I going to the drop relative things? What, do I have time? Do I have money? Do I have, I think I did have one thought of, well, I'm learning how to fly a plane. Am I going to get confused with the plane and the boat? Like I've got to learn how to drive the boat again. Just different engines. That's the only thought I had. I was like, oh, don't be silly. It's like riding a bike. I remember how to drive a boat. It was fun. That's the only thought I had, which again was a drop thinking that, because why can't you learn how to drive a boat and fly at the same time? I know there's a few questions. Let me just see if there's anything else to be said around it. Okay, give them microphones.
That was a massive one, what you were just saying, because in observing and listening to what you're saying, it's like then in the now you have everything. There's nothing that you lack. But then I've observed how I haven't believed that and then gone to my story and not showing up for what's come to me in the moment and trusted the feeling. So it was a big one.
In the moment when the feeling comes, you feel within the feeling only possibilities. And the feeling comes for the moment. I've said this so many times. It comes for now, and it comes for the moment. I just did a WTF, not last weekend or the weekend before, or was it last weekend? In Sydney, or whenever it was, one or 2 weeks ago. I did WTF in Sydney, and I don't do too many. And when I did the WTF, I spoke to these guys about coming along to the retreat. We've got a retreat coming up in a few weeks. And we had, a large portion of the people sign up to the retreat. And then we had like 2 or 3 people say, actually, I want a refund. Like the next day or 2 days later. And we're like, why? Weren't you following what was true for you? No, it was just it was a spur of the moment thing. I was being silly. But that's the feeling. That's the feeling. But then you judge what the feeling brought to you. You judged what you have to do, or the drop gets in the way and goes, how am I going to do this? But in the moment you felt the possibilities. But you see, the sad thing is most people think that's not real. So then we just go, okay, fair enough. You got 7 days, we'll refund your money. That's the sad part. The sad part is they thought that feeling was a spur of the moment thing, and they think that's not real. I don't say this to them, so then what they're telling me is this feeling that came from fear afterwards is real. Well, have fun with that. Who else had their hands up? Boyd.
So, okay, I wanted to ask you something before, but I'll ask you something about that. So, as much as there's this agenda for the negative and the positive, if depending on what level you want to look at it, yeah, let's just say there is the agenda. So, taking that example that you've just said there, yeah, about people putting money down for a retreat and going ahead with it. From my perspective, I can see there's 2 sides. There's either going to be people who are following their heart, and like, yeah, I can feel that, yeah, that's right for me. Or there's those that are saying, yeah, Amir's going to make me all sorted, and this is going to fix all my life. So I see there's 2 parts to that. And then on what you were saying before about following that feeling for the boat.
Yeah.
So just so I can understand what's going on, you had this feeling for the boat. It just came up, oh, we've got to have, boat sounds great for summer or whatever, yeah? So you basically said, yeah, that sounds great. And then poof, it's gone. There's not that feeling still there. It's just, yep, I've accepted that. Is that?
There's no thinking around it. It's just like, when I first had my training wheels of using what I'm saying to you, I feel something, and it takes me a while to actually go, yes.
Yeah.
Okay? Because immediately it's like, what about this? What about this? What about that? Now without the training wheels, it's just, oh, I would love that, right? And the feeling is pure, meaning it's not agenda driven. It's not like, oh, I would love that. Then all my friends think I'm successful because I've got my own boat or whatever. Can you see what I'm saying? And by the way, I'm just doing a timeshare, so, on a boat, not a, But anyway, that's what it is. But that's got nothing to do with it. But the point is, when the feeling is pure, right, and I don't have to think about the feeling any longer, I just go, I love that. That's it.
So it's sort of like...
And most people do that too. They go, when some feeling is pure, they go, oh, I would love that, but they can't let go of that they can't let go of the feeling. They hold on to the feeling.
Yeah.
I would love that, and then they hold on, they don't let it go, and then they go, but how is that possible? I can't let it go. How would it be possible? They hold on to it. So when you first have your training wheels, it's just like, well, you hold on to it. It takes you a little while to make a decision that, yeah, I want to get a boat for the summer.
So that feeling comes up, and at some stage, hopefully, you decide that, yeah, I accept that. Yeah, that's part of me. And then poof, it's not that I'm attaching to that. It's just, yeah, that's part of me. And then there's no thinking about it. And then, as you're saying, you go along and, oh, there's a sign. Comes up again. Yeah, I feel that. Sally, write that down. And it's not holding on to that feeling. It's just saying, yep, in the moment, that's what I'm feeling.
You never hold on to it.
Yeah, and that's it. Yeah.
Most people hold on to it. They don't release it. And how do you know you haven't made a wholehearted decision? Because you're still holding on to the feeling. And you're going to get to a point where you're just making wholehearted decisions very easily. At the beginning, you don't know what that is. So you're like, like you have to sit with it, and you know, it's like jumping off a little diving board into the water. You're like, if you just don't think about it and jump it, that's what it becomes like. At the beginning, when you're diving off the top diving board, you're like, at the end, you're like, because you're thinking about it, like you want to go, but you're thinking about it. But as you get more comfortable, you don't think about it. You go to the end and you jump off. There's no thinking about it, and that's what it becomes like. As you use it more and more, you don't think about it, and what that looks like or feels like is, oh yeah, I would love that. But the thing is, the fact that you love something, where does love come from? It comes from infinite love. You didn't choose that you love that. Infinity goes, hey, I would love to experience that boat through you. You as the one. So it's coming from infinity. What am I going to say to my infinite self? No, we can't do that because that's not possible. Can you see what I'm saying? Yeah. So I didn't even choose that I love that. The ego hijacks the love and goes, oh yeah, I would love a boat. And then when the ego thinks I decided, then the ego thinks I need to make it happen. Well, then all the things in the story come into the equation. But the things in the story don't come into the equation for me because I'm coming from the one energy, one moment. Yeah. So therefore, it's just like, yes, I would love that. Let's do it. And that you're not holding on to it. It's gone. So therefore, how do you know you're not holding on to it? Because you don't think about it. You're not sitting there going, what do I got to do? How can we make this possible? And you might be excited, but it's just thinking. I don't think about it.
And that's exactly what I've been doing. Sometimes, I've just been letting it. A feeling comes up, and then poof, that sounds good. Or I feel that, that's okay, and it goes, and then whenever it comes back, I follow that. Other times, the feeling comes up, and I'm like, that's it. Okay, what do I do? And now I've gone back to here, and I'm thinking,
because
okay,
you go into time. You go into time, and it's like, what do I do? When do I want this? When's the right? It's just rather than letting the feeling to continue to come how the first feeling came. How did the first feeling come? It just popped up. Maybe you created a story where you're having a conversation with somebody like I was, but in fact, it popped up earlier than that. Jamie knows. I said, I'd love to get a boat for this summer. But then I had dinner with my friend, and he's got a boat. He was telling me some stories, and it popped up again. I told you guys a story about me starting flying 1 month ago, or 2 months. It's only about one month ago. I told you. Somebody said to me, I was having a meeting with, and I said, hey, let's meet. And they said, I can't meet at that time. I'm flying. Where are you flying to? No, I'm learning how to fly. And I was like, oh, really? Like, it's just a month ago, it popped up for me to start flying. And right there, it popped up again. Great. Well, where are you flying at? Bank Sample. Great. Can you book me in as well? I want to come. All right, I'll let them know you're interested. Gave me the name. They called me. Yeah, book me in. It's just, it's more simple than you think. But what happens is when it does pop up, the ego, all right, the mind thinks that it made it pop up. So then the identity goes, oh, I love this. Just like I talked about in previous month, you didn't decide who you love, and you didn't decide what you love. It just popped up like a bubble rising in the ocean. It just came to the surface, and you went, boop, oh, I love this. And you may have created a story where you're like in a plane, and then you're like, oh, I love flying planes. Like, oh, I love traveling. Oh, I wouldn't mind, I would love to fly. Can you see? Sometimes you create a story to induce the pop-up. Right? But the pop-up's going to happen anyway. But as soon as it pops up, the ego goes, I want to become a speaker. That's what that's what I'm here for. It's my purpose, and it hijacks the thought and goes, I chose to love you, or you didn't. You didn't even choose. You were never flying the plane. You were a passenger in the plane. The whole time you're a passenger in the plane, and you're sitting there like a little child that sits in behind their mum's seat when they're driving the car, thinking you're driving the car. The little kids sit in the back seat of the mum's four-wheel drive in the eastern suburbs. Or there's some suburbs mum drive around, and the big four-wheel drives, and you got the kid in the back going beep beep, like in The Simpsons. Yeah, the kid, they're not driving the car, but they think they are. It's fun for them to think they are. Well, you're not flying a plane. You never had control. But in the story, that is an illusion. In time, that is an illusion. It is designed for you to think that you do. Why? Because it becomes more real. However, don't get me wrong, there is a moment where you will come to realize that you're not the passenger on the plane, you're actually the pilot. Bless you. And that's when you become the writer and director of your movie. But you must first realize that you're not flying the plane, you're a passenger. And soon enough, as you go deeper and deeper, you'll start to realize you're doing this, and you're like, how long have I been flying this plane for? And you realize, I'm flying the plane. But the passenger thinks they're flying too. But they think that they're flying. But the passenger's in time, in the story. Microphone.
Question I have is sort of related to what Boyd has been asking about, and it's more an experience I have that when I am not following the feeling, so I have this idea I'm going to be the speaker, and I go to trying to plan it as opposed to letting the plan come through me, it's like I hit a brick wall.
That's right.
I actually can't do anything, and so I kind of go, oh, okay.
Because the drop can't move the ocean.
But it's like I can't actually do anything. Like in the old story, I would have gone through the motion. Now I just feel that I've made such a choice to follow the feeling that when I'm not, it's really clear when I'm not. Like
it never was working.
No, it wasn't working.
Even back in the day when you weren't conscious of this, it was never working. But you thought it was working.
Yeah, I thought it was working.
And you as the ocean moved a few things around to support you in your story of thinking that it was working. But it was never working. And then as you become conscious or more aware, you start realizing, hang on, this is not working. It's like people come to my programs and they go, oh my God, all this shit's going on in my life right now. It's like, no, all this shit was always going on. I just brought your awareness to it.
Mm.
You just brushed it aside. You made yourself really busy. You took drugs, you did this, you had your addictions to consume you from feeling all the shit that was going on. So it's the same story with that. People think, well, it's not working anymore. It was never working, but in the story, it's designed for you think it's working, so the ocean, the infinite part of you, moves a few pieces around to support your story of it's working. But it's always working in a limited way because it's limited. So then you realize, hang on, this is not working. And that's when you start to question things and go deeper and realize that was, and you'll get to a point and realize it was never working. It was just a dream.
But do you still experience this? So as you're choosing to follow the feeling, you're more and more that it becomes clearer where you're not. Making that choice when you're not in that now moment is so much clearer. You have the clarity around that you're not following the feeling and that you're holding on as an awareness.
Why are you concerned about when you're not following the feeling?
Look, it literally, it's like I stop. I can't actually, it's like I can't do anything.
So then just follow the feeling.
Then I'm aware I'm not following. That is what makes me aware that I'm not following it, and therefore I then start to follow the feeling. But it's actually that stuckness that makes me aware that I'm not.
Okay, great. So the stuckness is supporting you. What do you want me to say?
No, I just don't know. I say, does it come to a point where, you know, like when you're following the feeling or not, like what? It's more how You know, because like you go, like, does someone follow the feeling and then they back out? You know, what point, what sort of things support you in continuing to do that? Because if we were all doing that, we'd be living in oneness, and there's freedom and love in every moment.
I can't answer your mind question. It's a question for the mind. There is no how.
I was just going to say that I seem to have, like, something will arise and there's no choice. It's like India. I didn't know why I couldn't make some choices coming up around the end of the year and around house sitting and stuff. But I'd seen, like, when this came up to go to India, I just knew there was no choice. I had no idea how, but I just knew that I had to go to India in November. And it's just automatic. I couldn't not go.
So what's your question?
Well, I also have other things, like when other things come up, and I'll tune into them and just see what I feel about them, and they'll feel, and I'll think, you know, okay, that feels really good, but it's not that same intensity of just knowing, like the no choice. So is that then just going into the mind and, you know, like when we, you know, I think I'm using my intuition just to feel into something if it feels good or a possibility, but it's not that same intensity. So
there's usually not that intensity because you're not in the same moment. There was a moment where you were completely in the now and you feel the intensity. So then you're taking the decision and referring it to the past and future, and then you go, I'm not feeling it. I don't think about it. You guys are asking me questions. The last two questions have been asking me is questions about how do I sort this out in my mind, and I'm kind of get bored, to be honest. It's just like, I just don't think about it. I just, you know, I understand where you're coming from, but you're never going to find the answer where you're asking the question from. There's one energy. There's one moment. If you feel to do something, you do it. And again, I'm talking about what's true for you. I'm not talking about emotional reactions. Okay, so again, let me clarify that. If you feel to do something but you think you can't, okay, it's because you don't have enough space. Where's the space? In the now. You don't like love, you don't like power, you don't like money, you just like space. What is the now? We said now is love, now is freedom, now is space. You're just not in the now, and then you're not experiencing the same level of intensity because you're trying to make a decision. If you're being honest with yourself, your decision is purely designed to how it's going to affect your future or past. If you be absolutely honest with yourself, that's why you're not feeling it. Okay? Now, the moment you had that decision with India, there was a moment where you would, let's just call it randomly, but it's not random, of course, nothing's random, where you experienced being in the moment and you're like, oh my God, this is, and you just made a decision and it all fell into place. And you're like, and then you're looking for those moments again. You're looking you're looking for moments where that you can make decisions like that again. But you were just in the moment, that's all. And then all the other decisions you're not making in the moment. It's very, very simple. Microphone. A lot of questions, the Sydney group, eh? Lucky the microphone's working now.
Good one, Ali.
Before it wasn't plugged in. Ali's got to do some editing.
Enjoy, Ali. I just had a really cool observation because when you're in the now, like there are things that have definitely on this journey, like the feeling comes and you just say yes, you know. And I've just had like a sort of wave of just so many things that have shown up. But it's then when you go and put power on what's happened in the story, that you're not present in the now, and then your attention goes outside of what's happening. And for example, I felt to live in North Bondi, and I didn't know what was going to happen. And then in the story, the perfect place showed up. Like I was having breakfast with Sally, and Sally told me that you guys
You
knew
having
that
breakfast with my girlfriend?
we were having breakfast, and she goes, "Oh, we know this guy Chris. He owns this building exactly where I was looking. It just showed up." And it's funny. Then I went there, and
Then the story came in.
the story came in. But the story came in because I didn't doubt everything showing up. But as soon as the attention went to, okay, how am I going to pay for this, into money, then I fell away. Because
Future past, very simple. Has nothing to do with money. You just went into the future.
Yeah.
Can I afford this?
Gone.
You've gone back into the story. You've gone back into time, and you've gone back into limitation. So then you have to work for a living. You have to, the right timing is very important. And all that stuff is true for the drop. But the thing is, what I'm trying to get you guys to realize is the feeling never came from the drop. The feeling came from infinity. And then the drop just takes over and goes, I thought that, so therefore I need to make that happen. And then you're like, well, I can't see that possible right now. It's not the right timing. Well, why did you feel it?
Yeah, well,
I don't know, I'm premature.
Yeah, I didn't have enough belief in the feeling or connection to the feeling.
That's because you went to the future.
Yeah.
That's all.
Yeah.
If you stay in the present moment, if you stay in the now, that doesn't come into the equation. So then you go to the future, and then you're like, I just didn't believe. Well, because there's no belief in the future or past. It's limited. The further you go into the future and past, the weaker it becomes. We manifest the future from the now. Right now. And it's already happened. Microphone.
My experience has been the more you do it, the more trust you have, and the stronger it becomes.
That's
I
right.
can look back now and see how I did that I felt to go, and then I talked myself out of it in the head.
Yeah.
But I'm finding now that the more I do it, the stronger it becomes. It's sort of like a muscle.
That's right.
The more you do it, and there doesn't seem any other choice then.
Yeah. Just like that story I shared in the WTF experience where the American chief Indian is sitting down telling the grandchildren the story of sitting around the campfire, telling the story of how he's got these two wolves within himself, and the two wolves, one's the wolf of the past, one's the wolf of the future, or fear, whatever you want to call it, and these two wolves are continuously at each other. And then one of the children goes, Chief, which wolf wins? And he goes, the one I feed. And the one you feed is not the one you listen to, it's the one you act on. It's not like, the ego here, if my ego's disappeared, and it's not like your ego will disappear. As long as you're experiencing yourself in physical form, there will be a small percentage of ego, right? I've just tamed it. It's tamed. Good little doggy. Before it was just a wild dog, being naughty all the time. And I'm chasing the dog. Now I tell the dog, come here. My dog, my ego, it listens to me. I'm its master. When I say, I feel to do this, my ego goes, yes, you do. And because I've observed, every time you say you're going to do something, you do it. I believe you. That's what my dog says. So many people's dog, when you say, that's it, I'm going to do this, the first thing you got to battle is the dog going, no, you're not. Last time you said you're going to do this, last time you said you're going to start this, last time you said you didn't do it. What makes you think you're going to do it now? I still got the little voice in my head, but the little voice supports me. I'm its master. Right? Because and as you said, you talk about practicing this, Sandy, I have continuously more and more followed the feeling rather than followed the voice. If I follow the voice becomes the master. And every time I have a feeling, the voice goes, come on. That's not possible. Come on. Maybe it's possible for Amir, but not you. That's when you start feeling what I'm actually talking about. You're like, oh, this feels true. Oh, but I used to say, that's my mum. Well, my mum just knows that I can't do what she's saying. There's always a reason why you can't. Last question.
it's more of a, what happened to me. It's just I was just pondering on all the conversation, and I actually had this situation at work last week, and they asked me, do you want to, because I was having issues, and they said, do you want to, because I'm contractor, do you want a contract for 6 months? And I stopped. And I was like, because I was having issues, and I thought, no, I don't want to do that. Do it for three months only. And then I thought, no, the reason I was saying no, because it's no longer that important. And it took me a little while to actually understood that it's not because, it's, you know, the planning and all that, because I have to secure my future. I have to make sure I have something, and I'm recognized in this field, and I'm good at it and all that stuff. But that moment, it actually didn't mean anything when they asked me that question. And I was thinking, 3 months, 6 months, it doesn't matter.
Yep.
And that was the very first time that I actually felt that it wasn't even a decision, should I do it or should I not? It was just a feeling that this is no longer important.
And when you realize it doesn't matter, then you can make decisions on what truly
That's
matters.
right. And because now after that, I relaxed. I said, if I'm not going to do this job anymore, now what? And again, it went back to, it doesn't matter. It will unfold. And I was at peace at it. I didn't even have any fear whatsoever.
Yep.
Which is incredible for being a contractor for a long time. That's all you want to do is secure a contract. To come to that place is actually
good reflection.
Quite interesting.
Thank you. All right, guys, we're going to take a break. But the question I'm going to leave with you to ponder on is, when is now the time? Knowing what you know now, everything that we've shared, when is now the time?